My inheritance had some odd rules. My grandpa was an odd guy. He was clearly wealthy, but no one was ever sure how. He lived frugally in a small house on a quarter of an acre, with a sensible car and nothing too fancy in the house. If you'd driven past it, you would have assumed some old-timer on a pension was just moldering away his golden years there, and you would have been right in some ways. Where he showed his wealth was in his generosity. Grandpa liked to give. He gave the best Christmas presents, had the best candy for Halloween, donated to charities, and liked to see people happy. If you asked him how he could afford to be so generous, however, he would always just wink and say he had his way. Not even my grandmother knew where his money came from, and they were married for 50 years. So when he died, we all wondered who would inherit his mysterious fortune. My cousins had loved Grandpa. Grandkids always do. But the two of us had always been close. My old man hadn't even waited till I was born to go grab some milk and cigarettes, and Grandma and Grandpa had helped my mom raise me so she could go to work. I have a lot of fond memories of sitting with my grandpa and watching TV, taking walks around the neighborhood, and eating ice cream at this little shop on the corner. He would always tell me to appreciate the little things because the smallest thing could be the one that changes my life the most. "Take this," he would say, showing me the door knocker he often carried in his pocket. I found this when I was a very young man, sifting through trash in a landfill as I looked for bottles to sell. It became my lucky charm, and it changed my life forever. Grandpa carried that door knocker for as long as I had known him, and it was pretty unique. It was a brass hand holding an apple, and it was all meticulously crafted in exhausting detail. The fingers had individual nails, the apple had a stem and leaves, and even the knuckles had wrinkles on them had been carefully worked. I couldn't believe, as a young child, that Grandpa had just pulled this out of a dump, but he carried it everywhere, and I suppose it did bring him luck. The funeral was beautiful, everyone there having nothing but kind words for Grandpa and his family. After the service, my 3 cousins and I were asked to come to a will reading at the lawyer's office, and Grandpa had been as generous in death as he was in life. My cousins had received a trust fund for each of them, the amount payable on their 30th birthday with a small living expense each month. Grandpa hadn't left a trust for me, but he had left me his little house, which I was pretty glad for. Mom had recently married, and though I liked Mike a lot, it had seemed a little weird to have her adult son living in the house she was trying to make a new life in. Grandpa's old house was the perfect size for me, a college student with no real prospects of marriage in the near future. It was close enough to campus that I thought it would be ideal, but the lawyer had one more thing to give me. "Your grandfather was also very clear that I give you this," he said, handing me Grandpa's lucky charm, the brass door knocker. I thanked him, thinking I might hang it somewhere in the house in Grandpa's memory. It seemed only fitting to make a little memorial wall out of it. After all, Grandpa had loved the thing, and it had been his only constant possession for years. So I moved in that day, taking my things and wishing my mom and stepdad goodbye, as I, too, embarked on a new life. Over the next few days, I changed the house around a little. I hung my flat screen on the wall. I moved Grandpa's favorite chair around. I added my books to his bookshelf, and I donated his clothes and some of his other things to one of his favorite charities in town. I think Gramps would like the thought that his stuff would help people in need, and they were very thankful. A few of them offered condolences, having read about his death in the paper. Grandpa bought a lot of his stuff from Goodwill and Habitat for Humanity, but he also donated a lot, so he was well known to them. It was Friday, about 4 days after the funeral, when I noticed the knocker on the counter and remembered my plans to hang it and make a memorial wall. I didn't have anything else planned for that day, so it seemed like a fine pursuit. I hung the knocker in the living room, putting it above a little shelf where I put some candles and a picture of Granddad. I put his wallet up there, too, something else he was never without, and I added a tin of Altoids, a pocket watch I had seen him wear, and a few other pictures of him. The door knocker was the centerpiece, and it all looked very nice when I got done. As I finished, I stepped back and admired it, thinking that Grandpa would have liked it too.